One of your first jobs as a principal will be to establish a school crisis team. These are the people who will help you handle the crisis. Usually you'll chair the committee or the team, but you'll want to appoint a vice chair. You may not be present during the crisis, or you may be so busy handling the press, for example, that you'll need an assistant. This could be an assistant principal, it could be a department chair or a curriculum coordinator. First aid responders are people who are trained in first aid techniques, and they may be required to render emergency medical assistance. Sweep team coordinators are usually the last ones out of the building during an evacuation, and they check the halls, the restrooms, and other areas to see if there are people who are suspicious, for example. A communication coordinator is responsible for all communications during a crisis, and they usually review any press releases, for example, that are put out. A staff liaison communicates with school employees about the committee's activities, and they see concerns that need to be directed to the committee. A student liaison is sometimes appointed. This is the person that communicates with students about the community's activities. And a parent liaison similarly communicates with parents about the committee's activities. The crisis team can help you also write the crisis management plan. So, what goes into a crisis management plan? First of all, you want to designate the relevant stakeholders. So, who are the people that need to be concerned with this crisis plan? You'll want to define what a crisis is, and you'll want to list some potential crises that your plan covers. In the examples in the folder this week of Crisis Management Plan, by the way, you'll see many of these components. You'll want your crisis management plan to define the roles and responsibilities for each person. So what is it that the principal will be in charge of? What will the assistant principal? What will the faculty be in charge of? What are parents being asked to do? You'll define for each crisis immediate responses. So, for example, a lockdown might be a particularly appropriate response to a violent crisis. You'll also include pertinent data that's needed to implement those responses. So maps and site access information, for example. You'll want to discuss student release procedures, and this will vary according to the complexity of the situation and the speed with which students need to be released. So obviously, if there's a fire, you want to get students out first, but then what will you do? Will there be a holding area? Where will that be? How will parents arrange for pickup? Communication processes. So for example, how will the public be updated or informed and then updated? How will the parent community be updated? Will there be a series of phone calls? Is there a phone tree? Is there a website? Will it be announced through the media? And required equipment and supplies necessary to implement all of these plans. Many schools will train faculty on codes and announce over the PA or broadcast system when there's a certain situation. The last thing we want to do is panic our students by announcing that there's an intruder in the building. So for example, some schools will train their faculty that if they hear code yellow, they know they need to go into a lockdown because there's an unauthorized person in the building. Similarly, code blue might be a catastrophic medical event in the building. For example, if the suicide in the case study had happened during school hours, there might be a code blue there. A code red might be a weather-related event, for example, a tornado approaching, and so students would need to go into a defensive posture. Code purple might be to evacuate the building and proceed to a designated student holding area. So, for example, after the lockdown was cleared and the building is still needs students need to be evacuated, that might be code purple. And finally, code green might be after a typical fire drill, for example, all clear, return to the classroom. It's extremely important to communicate properly during a crisis, particularly during a violent crisis. And you, as the principal, will be asked to do so. The first thing you need to do is to be very careful to have accurate information and not to comment beyond that accurate information. You want to think quickly about developing the message that you want to get out. You don't want to panic people, but you also don't want to um, be less than forthright. Use common terminology and use consistent messages throughout the crisis. Provide accurate messages and answer questions. So sometimes, particularly new principals will think if I just don't put that information out there, it will not come back and hurt me. And the problem is, in the vacuum, there will be rumors. And so you need to be very upfront and answer questions to the best of your ability, as long as you have accurate information. Respond to rumors immediately. So, for example, if there is a disastrous situation at your school and parents have called each other, there may be many rumors running wild about how many children are involved, and you need to be as forthright as possible, as putting and allaying concerns when you hear the false rumors. Avoid answering hypothetical questions. Avoid speculation. And we've all seen the press conferences on TV. Well, can you tell me about this? The reporter will say, and the administrator will say, no, I can't. I cannot speculate on that. Issue press releases when appropriate, and this gets back to the communications coordinator. You need to have someone that you can clear that through to make sure that you're getting the right information out. Do not disclose the names of students and employees unless legal approval to do so has been granted. Inform parents of the actions being taken in relation to students. And you want to be proactive, so call the press conference rather than waiting for the media to find out and come to you. Many schools find it helpful to activate a crisis hotline that parents can call and ask information. And always maintain a log of media inquiries, responses, and press releases. Sometimes in these situations, so many things are being said that it's helpful to have that log to go back and check the history of what was said so that you can triangulate what's about to be said. After the crisis, you'll want to gather your team together. You want to analyze what caused it. You want to make sure that your stakeholders, particularly your students and parents, as well as your faculty, are emotionally healthy after the crisis. Sometimes this takes a period of time. Sometimes it takes calling in psychologists and counselors, as we've discussed. You'll want to debrief employees and students to make sure that they have accurate facts. You want to figure out lessons that you've learned from this crisis and incorporate adjustments to the plan that were made as a result of the crisis. So what worked well, what didn't work well. In preparing employees to implement the plan, you'll want to give them an orientation to it. This may be done by you, the principal, or it may be done by the faculty coordinator. You'll want to have periodic training as the plan evolves, and you'll want to conduct emergency drills. Like the public relation plan, the communications for the crisis plan requires evaluation. And so once a year to conduct a safety and security audit to make sure nothing has changed in the building. It's a good idea to let your legal counsel review the plan to make sure that from a legal standpoint the school is covered. And to bring your team together once a year to review the plan, review any crises that occurred during the year, and update the plan. I provided a list of references in case you would like to explore any of these topics further. Thank you.